Okay, fifth grade, today we're going to start lesson 2-5 on problem solving, where you're going to draw a picture and write an equation, and that is found on pages 44 and 45 in your textbook. So make sure you have your textbook out now, spirals out, get your heading on your next clean piece of paper in your spiral. Make sure you put today's lesson and its title and the page numbers, and let's get our objective down. Today our objective is for me to be able to use pictures and equations to help solve problems. Again, both. They want a picture and an equation to help solve your problem. That's our goal for today. And it's not too complicated. Your steps are pretty simple. For step number 1, before we get into the practice problems, it says determine what information is needed. A lot of times in your word problems, there's information there that's not necessary for us to use to solve your problem. So our first goal is to make sure we find out, well, what do we need? What is the question asking? Step number 2, we'll be able to draw a picture. Step number 3, after we draw our picture, we're going to write an equation, and that equation will help us solve the problem. Then when we're done with those steps, then we're going to estimate to check that the answer is reasonable. We will do that last this time. Usually we've been doing estimating first, but for these word problems today, we want to solve them first and then estimate at the end to make sure our answer is reasonable. Okay, good. Get your steps copied down, and then we're going to move right along to the top of page 44 and 45.
Well, can you move that over, son? No, go back to the second one.
Second.
Now just move it over. You see? Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're set. Okay, top of page 44, where it says draw a picture and write an equation. It says 3 friends have music collections. How many more CDs does Susan have than Larry? Well, the first thing we will need to find out is, well, how many CDs does Susan have? Look at your chart there for your music collection. Susan has how many? Yes, she has 42. Good job. And then how many CDs does Larry have? Yes, on there it says 26. So what information do we need from that chart? Yes, Susan's number of CDs and Larry's number of CDs. Do we need to know about Chad's number of CDs that's still on that chart? No. Good. So that's our step 1 that we are saying. What information is needed? We need to know the number that Susan has of CDs and that Larry has of CDs. Good. Now go across to the top of your page, go up to the top of page 45. Just move your finger across where it says read and understand. It says, what do I know? It says Susan has 42 CDs and Larry has 26 CDs. Then they ask, what am I asked to find? The difference between the number of CDs from these 2 collections. We want to know how many more does Susan have than Larry. So that's the difference. What does that difference mean? What does that word mean again, 5th grade? Yes, difference means we need to what? Subtract. Good job. So now go all the way to your right now. Follow that orange arrow where it says plan and solve. First thing up there, it says to draw a what? A picture. Good. That picture shows you having Susan having 42 CDs. And then you will see there that Larry has an N and then 26. And you will see that on the board as well. That is in your textbook, and I put it up here underneath plan and solve. So here's our picture. Susan has 42 CDs, and we know Larry has 26. We put that N in there because we don't know how many more Susan has here. Because at the end then, when you put 26 with the N, it's going to total what? 42. Good. So now we need to write our equation. How are we going to find how many more? We need to do our subtraction problem. And we talked about this. When we subtract, what number has to go first? The bigger number. Good. So we have to take Susan's number here and do 40 minus 26 to equal N. N is the number we are trying to find out. Okay? So now we line up 42 minus 26. Can we do 2 minus 6? No, we can't, so we have to borrow. So the 4 becomes a what? Good. A 3, and this becomes 12. What is 12 take away 6? 6. Good job. And then 3 take away 2, or 3 minus 2 is what? 1. Good. So N equals 16. And then you will see here we have put a label. 16 what? More CDs. So Susan has 16 more CDs than Larry. Okay, so this was again repeating. We draw our picture, then we write our equation, and we find our answer. Now, to check for reasonableness, let's go back and estimate. If we were to estimate 42 minus 26, okay, you can either use compatible numbers or do rounding. We've seemed to like rounding, so let's round these numbers. 2 tells me to round which way? Down. Good. What happens to that 4? Awesome. It stays the same. So this rounds to 40 and 26. 6 tells me to round which way? Up. Good. So what happens to my 2? Goes to a what? 3. Good. So now we have 40 minus 30. 0 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 3 is 1. So we have about 10. Is 16 close to 10? 16 is close. It's not super close, but it's reasonable. If we would have something more like 5, or if we had 25, then we would know 16 is not reasonable. So 10 is reasonable. Good job, 5th grade. If you have a question, go ahead and copy it down. Let's do another.